third speaker, or the third speakers, I have two speakers from the independent, two independent researchers from India. I'm very honored and pleased to welcome Sivasankar and Resy George. They will talk, entertain us on the topic of intelligent assistive devices for community platform backing, a socio-economic intervention for gender-inclusive assistive technology. The floor is yours. Look forward to hearing your talk.
I was listening to the earlier two presentations and we suddenly realized that our presentation is a bit different and perhaps a bit odd even, because the type of academic rigor which was there in the earlier presentations, definitely we don't have. What we have been trying to do is do an action research which would possibly create a socio-economic intervention and perhaps even lead to creation of an enterprise. And the area of focus that we have done is in a very niche segment, which is gender inclusive assistive technology. And this would look very deviant from the general gender inclusive discussions which we are having. Now, this is the global picture which we have. On an average, around 2.2 to 2.5% of people are disabled, of which around 45% are women. This is the first level of primary disability level. This is the WHO Disability Action Plan, which was formulated in 2014 and it is supposed to be implemented from 2014 to 2021. If you look at the elements of this action plan, it's very well written. It's like the Millennium Development Goal report type of thing. But at the end of 2021, to what extent we have been able to achieve progress in ticking off boxes, if you look at it critically, I don't think we have moved substantially far, particularly from the affordability point of view of devices, from the gender inclusive part of devices, and that we thought would be an area where we should like to focus on. Now, this is all well known. Once you have a disability, you have it affects the income stream of the family. There is a economic aspect, there is a social aspect, there is a physical aspect, and ultimately the base point is, are we in a position to allow a person with disability to lead his life in a dignified manner? And I would put dignified in capital letters. If you ask that question, I don't think that the existing systems which we have are perfect or are actual real functioning enablers. Now, what is wrong with the existing level of assistive devices? Our research showed that there are three elements. One is the technology primitiveness. We today are living in the world of Tesla and SpaceX and artificial intelligence and things like that. But we still have sign languages and braille as languages. We still have humble white cane sticks as assistive devices. So where is this technology, cutting edge technology and the disruptive power of technology being used in the assistive device sector? Very few instances. Of course, there have been some massive strides made. We all know about Stephen Hawking's wheelchair. We know about the new generation devices which are coming up. But each of these devices pose a very huge question mark: affordability. How many of these people who are disabled can actually afford them? Especially when we reconnect that with the fact that a person who is disabled goes to an economic stress and trauma, this affordability becomes a very critical point. So we perhaps would need to look at new financing models for that. It's not a question of charity or philanthropy. We need to look at cost-effective technology adoption and perhaps new financial models to ensure affordability. And the last point is the focus on gender inclusiveness. I'll just ask this simple question. How many of us have seen women on wheelchairs or women with white canes? At least in the low and middle income countries, this is a complete rarity inside. So there is a huge, and if you look back and say that 45% of the affected people are women. So what is happening to all these women? Where are they? That's a very, very serious concern, which I think we need to address square on. Coming to the technology primitiveness, see on the left-hand side of the screen, you see the very advanced, most modern wheelchair. It climbs chairs and it runs through marshy lands and stuff like that. But the normal wheelchair which we have is what you see on the right-hand side. And mind you, it is 100 years old. So without too much of modification. So this is what is there. So when I talked earlier about where is disruption in technology in the assistive devices, these two pictures actually show the point. And the right-hand device, the most modern device, just outprices itself out of the affordability parameter. Now, let us just look at what a caregiver says. We have so far been talking about what a patient is saying. Now, let us see a first-hand response from a primary caregiver. Yeah.
Can you turn up the volume? It's a bit low, please. That's maximum.
You have a problem with the audio?
Yeah, we're unable to hear it.
So I'll just summarize what she was trying to say. This lady is a primary caregiver for a person who has been disabled and has been using a wheelchair. And this particular person, the patient is a upwardly mobile young man in his early 40s, and he has been in the wheelchair for almost 18 years. He is an IT professional. He uses a modified car for his transportation. He uses an electronic wheelchair. But what she says is that three things are missing in that in the wheelchair which he uses. One, a person in the wheelchair has a particular posture. So there are certain pressure points which keep rubbing onto the surface of the wheelchair. And this creates some bed sores and stuff like that. So that type of monitoring is not possible. An indicator of where exactly are these pressure points, the vitals, the BP, the heart, the body parameters need to be monitored in regular fashion. That's not allowed, even the most modern wheelchair which they have been using. And it doesn't connect to the community. So she says that even the existing wheelchair, which is a fairly expensive proposition, that is not giving her the option of a technology enabled device at all. Now, if you look at this whole problem, this is a classic case of people seeing elephants. Like there is an elephant in the room, but we don't know whether it's a financial issue, whether it's a technology issue, whether it's a social security issue, whether it's a gender issue, type of stuff. Now, let me try to connect it with the post-pandemic scenario. Why is this relevant at this point of time? Why are we presenting it to this August forum today? Because post-pandemic, there is a substantive reset which is happening. World is not like before. Everything is getting reset using technology. The way we function, way we live, the way business are being done gets done. Assistive devices and disabled people are something which have been completely brushing under the carpet. So our plea is that when the whole world resets itself, we should give them a chance to reset using technology into the new paradigm. Let them come out of the carpet, let them come above the carpet, and that opportunity is very much there. So how do we do this reset? The concept which we have put forth is what we call as an intelligent assistive device. We call the existing devices DADs, dumb assistive devices. What we are calling it, talking about is intelligent assistive devices. This aims at making the existing stack of assistive devices into agile companions. That's all that we are trying to do. What are the features? We are trying to have a meaningful tech enabling using IoT, provide existing devices and IoT wrap so that they communicate among each other, they communicate between devices, they communicate with the control center, they communicate with the patient. A community builds using IoT. That is the most important aspect of this. The second part is innovative pricing models. See, there is no need for you to pay the entire cost of the device upfront. It's a lifelong product. Why don't we appropriate the cost over the period of time, have a use model, have a shared model? This becomes particularly relevant when we look at many of these assistive devices are relevant for accident victims, people who have temporary neck fractures and stuff like that, retired people or geriatric people who require care. So innovative pricing models are definitely possible. And the community which we create, because it is IoT enabled, facilitates better monitoring of the person by care providers, better treatment protocols, and it becomes a quality iteration, which is definitely feasible. I end this with referring to the talisman of Mahatma Gandhi. This is what made us believe in this project. And we are very happy and glad to present this whole concept in this forum, which is being organized by the United Nations, UNESCO, as well as Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham, who believe in love, care, and compassion. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I think your first statement maybe is wrong in the sense that I think it is a very good topic, on the contrary, to look at disability and gender equality and women empowerment. I think in that sense, it's a very important contribution that you provided to us. Thank you so much, sir. Very helpful. We'll get back maybe with questions as we get into the question and answer session.